Is Kent Hughes about to orchestrate the blockbuster trade that transforms Montreal from playoff hopeful into legitimate Stanley Cup contender by acquiring Elias Pettersson from a Vancouver Canucks team that's clearly dismantling? If you watch your neighbor sell a Ferrari, you'd assume the mansion is next on the market. That's the logic that woke up the hockey world on Wednesday, December 17, 2025. Detailed analysis from Treege Wilson suggests the Montreal Canadiens should be aggressive and capitalize on the apparent dismantling of the Vancouver Canucks to acquire superstar center Elias Pettersson. With long-term injuries to Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook exposing Montreal's lack of center depth, Kent Hughes has the opportunity to make the move that defines a decade. The logic is straightforward. Vancouver has decided to reset. By moving Quinn Hughes, they sent a clear message. Massive contracts aren't welcome in a rebuild. Elias Pettersson carries the biggest contract of all at $11.6 million through 2032. For Montreal, which is in the mix but needs a push to become a legitimate contender, absorbing that contract makes sense if the acquisition cost is low. And according to this proposal, it could be significantly lower than anyone would expect. Let's talk about the most exciting part of this analysis: the projection of Montreal's lineup with Pettersson in the fold. Picture this carefully, because what you're about to read is genuinely elite. First line: Zachary Bolduc at center with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield on the wings. Second line: Uri Slavkovsky at left wing with Elias Pettersson at center and Ivan Demidov at right wing. Think about that for a moment. Slavkovsky brings size and physicality. Pettersson brings elite skill, hockey intelligence, and a lethal shot. Demidov brings creativity and playmaking magic. That's not just a good line. That's a line that forces every opposing defense to make impossible choices about who to shut down. You can't shut down all three. You can't even shut down two of them if they're playing at their best. The depth becomes genuinely frightening when you consider what happens when the injured players return. Newhook, Kapanen, and Dach would form a third line. That's Stanley Cup caliber depth. That's the kind of organizational structure that wins championships. You're not asking your top line to carry the team. You're not asking your second line to do everything. You have balance, flexibility, and multiple scoring threats at every level. Now let's talk about the price, because this is where the conversation gets really interesting. What does it cost to acquire a player with 100-point potential? The proposal suggests a package of Owen Beck, a defensive-minded center prospect, Adam Engstrom, a promising left-side defenseman, and a first-round draft pick. That sounds cheap, almost suspiciously cheap for a player of Pettersson's caliber. But there are two factors that explain why Vancouver might accept something in that range. First, the massive contract. $11.6 million is a huge number that most teams can't absorb without significant maneuvering. Second, and more importantly, Pettersson's no-movement clause. If Pettersson controls his destination, Vancouver's negotiating power drops dramatically. They can't force him anywhere he doesn't want to go. That fundamentally changes the leverage in any negotiation. The analysis is clear about one absolute limit. If Michael Hage is in the deal, I'm out. Hage is viewed as untouchable after his recent success with Team Canada. He's the kind of prospect you don't trade away, the kind of building block you protect at all costs. Beck and Engstrom are valuable, but they're not Hage. They're the kind of assets you can move if it means acquiring a generational talent. But everything depends on one crucial factor: Elias Pettersson's willingness to waive his no-movement clause. This is where the sales pitch becomes critical. Vancouver is walking backward. They're rebuilding. They're moving their young stars and clearing cap space. Pettersson, at 27 years old, is entering his prime. He doesn't want to waste those years in a rebuild. He wants to compete. He wants to win. Montreal offers him exactly that. The Canadiens are an ascending team, just a few moves away from competing for a championship. The city is passionate about hockey in a way that few places are. Playing alongside Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, two elite players in a market that will celebrate him as a hero, could be exactly what Pettersson needs to hear. The opportunity to be the centerpiece of a contending team in one of the most passionate hockey markets in the world might be enough to convince him to waive the clause. The risk is real and can't be ignored. The contract runs through his age 33 season. It's a long-term commitment to a player who will be in the declining phase of his career by the end of the deal. But for a team that desperately needs an elite number one center, it's a calculated risk. You're not betting on Pettersson becoming better. You're betting that he remains at his current elite level long enough for Montreal's young core to develop into championship contenders. Kent Hughes has already proven he's not afraid of big trades. He acquired Doc. He acquired Newhook. He acquired Lane. But acquiring Elias Pettersson would be the grand slam. It would be the move that transforms Montreal from an interesting young team into a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. If the Canucks are truly liquidating assets after the Quinn-Hughes trade, the phone in Patrick Allvin's office should already be ringing with the 514 area code. The opportunity to have Suzuki and Pettersson down the middle for the next 7 years is the kind of thing that guarantees parades on St. Catherine Street. It's the kind of move that defines an era. It's the kind of move that turns a good team into a great one. The question is whether Kent Hughes has the courage to make it happen, and whether Elias Pettersson has the desire to escape Vancouver's rebuild and become the centerpiece of Montreal's championship push. The window just opened. The Canucks are selling. The Canadiens are buying. The only question left is whether both sides can agree on the price and whether Pettersson is willing to make the move. If they can, Montreal's future just changed dramatically. Should the Canadiens go all in on Pettersson despite the long-term contract risk? Or is this the kind of blockbuster that could backfire spectacularly? Would you be willing to give up Beck and Engstrom for a chance at a legitimate number one center? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit that like button if you think this is the move that could finally bring a championship back to Montreal.